Hello, I'm Brian, and this is a special edition of AAMI News and Conversation. I'm here in Long Beach, California for AAMI Exchange 2023. I've been interviewing a bunch of our award winners all today, and right now I have a very exciting guest, Ali Youssef. And Ali, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Brian. So my name is Ali Youssef. I'm the Director of Medical Device and Emerging Technology Security at Henry Ford Health. And that's where I work now. But really my background, I started out as a biomedical design engineer and made my way into IT and eventually cybersecurity over the years.
Gotcha. So you're in good company with everybody here
Yes,
today at Exchange.
yes.
So you're an award winner I mentioned, but specifically you won a publication award this year for the best article, which is saying something. We produce a lot of articles. It got a lot of attention specifically because we're talking about basically 6 points of focus for a cybersecurity framework, right? You want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that has been a pet peeve of mine for a while now is when people talk about medical device security, the focus is really the FDA and the manufacturers solving the problem. But in reality, that's not really the case. It has to be, it's a two-way street with health delivery organizations. We have our part to play in this as well. And so, yeah, this article was trying to capture, in alignment with the NIST cybersecurity framework, trying to capture how an HDO would set up a medical device security program, the types of things they need to go through. Now, there are 12 focus areas in what I lay out, but I really couldn't get into a lot of depth. Number one, I didn't want the article to be too long. Number two, I thought, let's focus on the areas that can make the most impact. So we narrowed it down to 6 that we went into depth on.
Okay, and those are the 6 that you would think that most HDOs would most commonly have to handle and deal with?
Yes, you have to handle these 6 in order to be able to even initiate a medical device security program. These are basic things like vendor management, governance, procurement, asset management, vulnerability and patch management, and training. And really, if you look at that and you think about, okay, when we're dealing with procurement, these 6 are really designed to stop the bleed. They're essentially designed to stop medical devices coming into an institution without having a risk assessment associated with them.
Right. So major areas of vulnerability.
Major areas, and really the basics of cybersecurity is what they were targeting.
I was speaking to one of our other guests today, and she mentioned how sometimes, granted she was focusing on AI, but she mentions how sometimes you don't even know if a clinician has brought in a little, pocket tool that's uploading to the cloud or what have you. So I feel like that goes into that asset management you're talking about.
Yes,
you just
absolutely.
got to know if those devices are part of the network. So that sounds very relevant. I wanted to ask you a little bit about trends right now that you're worried about or you want to focus on. If you were to say write another best article for 2024, what do you think that would be talking about?
Well, one concern that I have, so you mentioned AI earlier, that's definitely top of mind, right? As medical device design starts to change now, and if AI is integrated into how these devices work, that just opens up all kinds of avenues for concern. As far as cybersecurity in general, I do have some concerns about, I think it's really difficult to secure these types of devices, and the ramifications of not having them secure, as you've seen in the headlines almost on a daily basis, there's a ransomware attack. So it's not a matter of, this one device will harm one patient. It's a matter of someone coming in using that device to infiltrate the network, laterally move somewhere else on the network and launch something like ransomware, which has catastrophic effects, right? You're impacting all the patients in the facility at that point.
Yeah. Our viewers can probably tell that you're very passionate about cybersecurity. It comes through in what you write for us, but even right now as we're talking, you have an intensity about this. I'm curious what brought you here. How does somebody get so involved in this?
Yeah, so I started out as a biomedical engineer, and one of the things I got a lot of joy out of was when designing medical devices, doing the clinical trials and watching them improve people's lives, I got a lot of joy out of that. So when I made the transition to IT and ultimately back to cybersecurity, really what helped me make that transition was when I saw that there were people out there that were taking advantage of poor design in some cases to go back and harm patients in this way with these devices that are intended to help them. That's the lowest of the low in my opinion, basically. So that helped motivate me to work in that space. And it brings me a lot of joy to try to be of service and to try to, we can't eliminate 100% of these things, but at least if I could help a little bit, that's really what drives me.
Oh, that's excellent. I saw that you had written a book back in 2014. It was called Wi-Fi Enabled Healthcare.
Yes.
I'm guessing you still have your eyes on Wi-Fi as a kind of a point of vulnerability. Is there anything that HTM professionals should keep their eyes on, or even the manufacturers maybe they should be worried about?
Yeah, so Wi-Fi, one of the things that drew me to Wi-Fi and eventually to cybersecurity has to do with, like, the engineering background. You have this attitude where you want to solve complex problems, and these are complex problems, right? And Wi-Fi is very exciting, but it does come with its security challenges. So some of the new standards that I'm really excited about are Wi-Fi 6E is very exciting. They've introduced a brand new frequency now that devices can use that's dedicated, which opens up all kinds of creative opportunities to do creative things with Wi-Fi in healthcare. One of the things I'm really concerned about is Bluetooth technology. So you've probably heard a lot about patient engagement using BLE, for example, with your handsets, and it comes pre-built into the handset, so it's natural to try to use that. But as these types of use cases are becoming more pervasive in healthcare systems and they're being used in a clinical setting, it's really important to understand the security risks associated with Bluetooth. And I think that's something that worries me, is healthcare institutions not paying enough attention to this as it's, becoming a growing problem.
Do you think this would be a common vector of attack, or just a place where things could go wrong?
No, it's really not. It's not common, but it's based on how you configure the system. There's a possibility where you can misconfigure it in a way where it's vulnerable.
I see.
And that's really what it boils down to. If you know what you're doing and you configure it appropriately, then it's not insecure.
Okay, so a proactive learning and understanding of the technologies that you're bringing into your system. It kind of comes all the way back to the asset management we were talking about at the beginning of this.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
That's great. And this also brings me to a point that I had brought up when we were talking beforehand about the trade-offs that are associated with increasing interconnectivity between devices versus kind of how things were 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. Was that a more secure time, or was it just a different time?
I mean, there's a saying that the only secure network is no network, basically. The very standards that allow you to have interconnectivity on networks also introduce vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
So when you have many medical devices and other types of devices on one network, you run the risk of someone having the ability to move laterally. So you infiltrate one device and now you can go and touch these other devices that are connected to it. So absolutely, I mean, as these things keep getting more sophisticated and more connected, and as we keep adding more radio frequency, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, etc., it just introduces all these new vectors now for attack and makes things more complex to secure.
Yeah. So obviously we're surrounded today by professionals who are concerned about cybersecurity, maybe from the management side or even the technician side. If there was one takeaway that you would want them all to hear today, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, if there's one takeaway, to be completely honest with you, the more I learn cybersecurity, the more jaded my view becomes of that field, because really the proper way to think about it is you have to assume breach, essentially. Assume that someone has hacked into your network, and then try to figure out how do you put in place sufficient tripwires so you can detect if they do anything bad on the network quickly and react quickly and recover quickly. But I think if you look at the cybersecurity terrain today, and the fact that some of these bad actors are funded by nation states, think about some of the hacks that have happened over the last year. I mean, some of these companies, they specialize in security. That's their core business, and they're getting hacked. Yeah. The FBI is getting hacked. I mean, so if you think about it in that context, it makes it really difficult to think about a health system or a small health system trying to defend themselves.
We do hear sometimes bad actors say, "Oh, we won't attack health systems anymore," but they're still attacking academic institutions which happen to be attached to health systems. So we see this kind of, I guess it's a domino effect.
There's no honor amongst thieves. That's the way I like to look at it. Because, yeah.
Now, a statistic that I had heard bandied around, and I didn't know how accurate it was that I had heard that some folks were talking about the average time it would take to notice a vulnerability or an attack within your system might be up to 270 days.
Yes, yeah, that's one of the scariest. When I talk about assumed breach, that's the assumption, is that someone has infiltrated your network already, and they're just waiting and collecting information and just waiting to pounce until the right moment. If they make their way onto the network and you don't detect them at that instance, and they're not tripping any alarms, I mean, they could be on there for as long as they want, basically.
Yeah. So be proactive seems to be the best way to do it. Make a secure program to begin with.
Exactly, yeah. Try to prevent as much as possible. You will not be 100% successful with that. But really the idea is to layer as many security layers so that if someone is in your network currently, they trip one of those wires and you can quickly react to that.
Well, so for a lot of our viewers and readers, Ali has contributed a lot to our Cyber Insights column. I'm looking forward to reading more from you. It's always really passionate and engaging stuff. So any other final thoughts? Or?
Well, on the point of that column, I actually wrote an article recently. I don't know if it's published yet, but it has to do with comparing cybersecurity to climate change.
Oh, no kidding.
And it goes well with the conversation we just had as far as, well, how ready can you be?
I can say for certain that we're going to get that published very soon. We'll put a link in the description of this video so people can follow up on that and hear your thoughts.
All right, fantastic.
Well, thank you again. This has been really great, and congratulations on winning the Best Article Award for 2023.
Thank you so much.
All right.